Connor is a copycat. We are both talking about Mr. Bob Bradley in Toronto being on the hot seat. So why don't we just start right there? I think this one isn't getting enough attention personally. I mentioned it on Twitter yesterday. I think a lot of people agreed with me that, there's a lot of uh, Peter Vermees, there's a lot of Gerard Struber, but not enough Bob Bradley in this mix. The highest wage bill in the league, all their DP slots filled, to my understanding. Two of the most talented players in the league that make the most money, back to back years at the bottom of the East. It's just not good enough. He was brought in to turn this team around after they went flat under Greg Vanney after the treble year, and they have given him every single bit of support that is needed from the front office to get that done. He's got the players, he's got the infrastructure, he's got everything that he needs, and he's just fallen flat.
Yeah.
I think it might be time for a change. I was going to say something more, but I think I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. I think in fairness to him, the team is still very new. I'm looking at the list of new players that came in. I mean, it's a huge list. It is a massive list of players that just came in. This team needs some time to gel. Insigne's been out basically the entire season so far, who is one of their, two star players, as you mentioned. I think I don't disagree that he's on the hot seat mainly because the team was so bad last year, but I think he needs more time. This team needs some time to work on chemistry. Uh, this is basically like a brand new team, honestly. I know there were a number of these guys that were here last year, like Bernadeschi and Insigne, who were here for a bit, but there's so many new faces in the team as well. I mean, there's like obviously Sean Johnson and Matt Hedges came in the offseason, Rosted as well. I mean, there's a lot of guys who are starting. They came in the offseason. I think they need some time to gel together. Insigne's back. Give him a bit more time, but I mean, if the form continues throughout majority of the season, then yeah, you probably gotta like cut your losses at some point. Especially if Toronto still have a shot at the play-in late in the season, then you definitely like swap it because this team is too talented to be missing out on a playoff spot where 9 teams make the playoffs.
Well, and that's my worry too. Last year they looked exactly the same as they did last year, and last year they were almost the worst team in the league behind a DC United. My question to you now, if you're talking about a new team and they can't get a pass, blah 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 blah, why does Bob Bradley get a pass and Wayne Rooney is doing everything that he can? If Wayne Rooney was in the spot, would you still give him a pass?
Yeah, Wayne Rooney would have been in the job for like 2 months. I'm not gonna sack him
Well,
after
and
two
that's my
months.
point, right? So you're acting like he hasn't been here already. This isn't a brand new team. He's got more different starters, but this isn't a team. His entire midfield's still the same because he refused to bring in more midfielders. So the most important part of your team still remains. You have Bernadeschi, who's supposed to be one of your big playmakers that can make everything work, and you've gotten the same results as you did last year. I,
He's
I
got
don't think I don't think it's good. I don't think it's he needs more time. He hasn't been here 2 months trying to get this thing together. He has been here a year and a half and has yet to put this together. It's not good enough.
he absolutely deserves more time. You mentioned the midfield is the same, sure. The entire back line is completely different this year. Left back, both center backs, and the goalkeeper, brand new, weren't here last year. That's a
Mm-hmm.
complete overhaul in the back line. Not to mention that right now, Toronto is, first of all, 1 win off of a playoff spot. They have 9 points. Nashville has 12 points in sixth. 1 win, they could potentially jump all the way up to sixth. Like, it's tight. They have 2 losses on the year. They're not finding ways to win games right now, but they're not losing either. And I think, and this is without Insigne for the entire year. I mean, Insigne is supposed to be MVP level in this league. Why would you not give him more time? He's got his MVP type guy back. The team has continuously been competitive in games. They've been missing that last piece, and I think Insigne is that last piece of the puzzle. The defense will get better as the season goes on. They get chemistry, and I think Toronto will move up the standings. But I think switching out the coach now would be a mistake. They built this team around Bob Bradley. Give him some more time.
No, they didn't. They built this team around Insigne and Bernadeschi. Bob Bradley did not get the team built
Well,
around
he was the coach. He was the coach when they brought
you
them
don't
in.
build a team around a coach. You let the coach build the team.
I meant they were building the team while Bob Bradley was in charge. I'm sure Bob had sway in who else they brought in to support Bernadeschi and Insigne. I highly doubt Bob was just kept in the dark on everything.
So they've got one win in 9 games.
It's because they're tying every game. They have 6 draws out of
Okay,
9
okay,
games.
okay. You know who else has one win in 9 games? And I guarantee was both and on both of our lists. Gerard Struber at Red Bull. What's the difference?
The difference is that Red Bull didn't completely change their team like Toronto did.
Okay. That's the only thing you're going with, is the fact they replaced a couple of players.
Yeah, I'm not saying Bob shouldn't be on the hot seat, but I don't think that he should be gone right now.
Okay,
He needs
okay.
more time.
That's what I needed to hear. The way that you had phrased it to me was like, oh no, he's not there. That's the way that I had assumed I had heard it from.
Well, you didn't listen because I said that he should be on the hot seat, but I don't think he's like heavy on the hot seat. He needs
No,
more
the way
time.
the way that you said it to me was
Well, because you don't
he
listen.
needs more time. He's not on the hot seat.
He
So
does need more time, but he is
I
on the
heard
hot seat.
I heard it as when you said he needed more time, it was more time before you even heat up the seat.
No, the seat is hot. The seat is
Thank you.
definitely hot, but he
I'm
needs
still
more
mad at
time.
you. I still don't like you, but like that
He
makes it better.
needs, he still, I think he needs like months more time, like at least halfway through the season before you can make that call.
Are we talking at midway point? If they're not in a playoff spot, he's gone and they're going somewhere else.
Depends on where they are. If they're still like things are super tight right now, if it was this tight, like a win could jump them easily into a playoff spot, and they happen to be outside of a playoff spot, I probably would still give him a bit more time. I mean, one win right now, he jumps up easily into playoff contention. Literally, all it takes is a good run of form, and they could lock in a playoff spot.
So the way that I look at it again, with the tables being as tight as they are, it's not a are they in playoff position or not. It's the level of play that is expected out of them at this point in the season that I don't think they're getting. I don't think that they're getting the level of play that they expect out of. I think Osorio's underperforming. I think Diamande hasn't even played. He's been that I don't know if he's hurt or he's been bad and not starting, but Bernadeschi's been the only relative bright spot in that team. I know Insigne's been hurt. He came back. He scored a goal in a 4-2 loss to Philly. They looked awful yesterday. Like some of that stuff isn't, oh, the defense hasn't figured it out yet. In 10 games as a professional, if you can't figure out what your center back partner is doing, you're not a professional. So it's not just a new player thing. It's a system thing. And again, I haven't watched Toronto super duper in depth, but there's something wrong there systemically that is way bigger than just a couple new players. And I truly think it starts at the fact that they've got 4 center mids, 2 of them over the age of 32, and they're trying to run them for 33,000 minutes a season. And it's putting way too much pressure on the back line. They don't have an attack to take it off because Insigne has been hurt. Yes, their striker situation is brutally bad. Diamande, like we mentioned, hasn't played. Akinola getting minutes? Question mark.
I think some. I think it's been like him and DeAndre
Six
Kerr.
appearances, 1 start. So Akinola's not getting in the mix. We were fighting for him to be on the national team at one point.
Yeah, during
If you're not getting
COVID year.
if we're not getting the return out of the players that we expect this team to do it, do the eyes turn to the coach? And that's an argument that goes through a lot of the coaches on this list. Is it's not it's the player's fault until it isn't, right? Coaching, you're required to have more than just a game, right? You need to have players who want to play for you. You need to have control of the locker room. You need to understand tactical changes, which I think Bob does. But if your players aren't going to play for you, if they're going to give up 4 goals a game and just walk around with their heads down, it might be time. It might be time for a flip flop.
I still think that's harsh. I know they've conceded their defense hasn't been great. That's clear. They've conceded the joint third most goals in the league. But there's two teams right now who conceded 13 goals this season and are in a playoff spot. If Toronto is in that spot, we're probably not having this discussion about Bob Bradley. Those two
Fair,
teams, by the way, Philly and DC. We
fair.
clearly are not talking about Jim Curtin being on the hot seat, even though Jim Curtin
He's going
is
to
certainly not
put
getting the
himself
best
on a
out of his
hot
team.
seat.
Obviously, Jim Curtin is not on the hot seat. And DC, who's in eighth, also conceded 13. Toronto has just as many goals as those two. Philly has 14, DC has 11, Toronto has 12. They could easily be in that spot, and we wouldn't be talking about Bob Bradley. A couple of games, definitely one or two things go right for Toronto, and all of a sudden they're in a playoff spot. So I don't think this Toronto team is bad. I think the defense has shown some potential this season. There was a stretch of 5 games where they kept 3 clean sheets. Like the potential's there. It just seems like they have games where they switch off. 3 against DC is not good. 4 against Philly is not good. But that's more than half their goals in 2 games. So
Yep.
I think there's potential. Bob needs more time. Let the defense figure things out. I know
All right.
you said they have to be professional and figure out center back partnerships and whatnot, but there's a lot of factors. I feel like there's language barriers. There's like I feel like a number of language barriers across that back
That's
line.
everybody's team though.
But they have time to figure it out.
They do. They do. And it's not hard to get into those playoff spots. I'm not saying that, but this is a team that won a continental treble just 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Right? That is the level that I think this team needs to be at. And that's why I don't think it's good enough, whether they sneak in or not. It's a level that they are not playing up to. That is what's driving this conversation for me. Um, but I agree. Let's give him some more time. I think you won me over. Give him some more time. We'll chat about it, and we'll go from there.